This is the Fort Bend Herald Football Scoreboard Show with Joel Luna and Sam Cinta, bringing you this week's latest on the gridiron from around the Bend.
And yeah, here as we get into Week 2's action at the Fort Bend Herald Scoreboard Show, it was a little bit of a rougher showing for the Fort Bend Herald teams. So we went 1-6 in this week's action as opposed to the 5-2 mark, 4-2 mark at the games that we were at a week ago to open the year. So some teams in Week 3 that will be looking to get on the right track as we move past into the schedule.
Which is the way it seems sometimes. I mean, sometimes you have a fast start, but then you're going to come down to earth a little bit and see those maybe more mistakes and things of that nature. So, yeah, we saw some rough stuff this past weekend, but we also saw some good stuff along with it.
And it wasn't all bad. I mean, you're looking at the scoreboard, you're looking at some losses, but in a lot of those games, I'm thinking Needville Livingston, Foster Seven Lakes, Lamar Kemner, even Terry, Westbury to an extent, games that are 1 or 2 plays away from having gone in the other direction, and in the non-district slate at least, opportunity for teams to learn, maybe get some humble pie and learn, hey, maybe we need to get back to the drawing board, put some more effort in.
And that's what some of the coaches said. I mean, they started off real good, but then they see this and they don't like it, so it could be a good thing. The kids are learning maybe that way, the hard way, but that's the way it is. I mean, I was at 3 losses this past weekend, which is not a good thing to see, but you see some good things, and you see the team still learning because some are still young or they have new coaches, one or the other. So, I mean, it's one or the other, but it's not district, so they don't count yet, actually. So these are the games where they have to learn, and in some ways it's good.
And of course, we're kind of talking a little bit on the bad. Well, let's bring up a little bit of the good here for a second. Randle keeps its winning streak going up to now 18 games in the state's longest winning streak. A thumping 64-6 over A-Leaf-Elsick, and boy, that should be an exciting game next week when they host the Travis Tigers, another team coming off of a big upset win in 6A over Katy Jordan. I'm sure we're looking forward to that one.
They might get tested a little bit this week, but which is good for Randle and good for Coach Randle because he wants to see that. He wants to see his team tested. He wants to see them. He wants to get mad on the sideline. That's what he wants to do, which for him is a good thing because he's pushing the kids and his kids. I mean, I don't know. I don't see anything with Randle until district starts, and it starts with the big boys right away. So,
and really, you get through those 2 games, right? I think it's Fort Bend Marshall and Iowa Colony back to back to start it off. If they win those 2 games, I think we can spoil the rest of the regular season for you guys. They're going to run the table and go into the playoffs 10-0. But again, big if. You've got 3 playoff teams back to back to back that they've got to get through, and This is going to be the biggest stretch of the season for the Lions.
I mean, you still got Travis, and Travis is looking good, like you said. I mean, they've surprised some teams already, but Travis has been good in the past. Yeah. So it's not like they're surprising anybody, really. They're just playing better, maybe have better players or whatever the case might be. With Randle, I mean, they're just a darn good team, man. And if you're going to get by them, then you better play a very good game to do that, which I don't see it happening this year. So let's see what it goes.
Looking to make your next real estate move but unsure where to start? The Ace Hernandez team at Manor Lane Southwest has you covered. The Ace Hernandez team is Fort Bend and Southwest Houston's real estate experts with 75 years of experience in guiding homeowners and home buyers alike. Contact the Ace Hernandez team at 281-762-6757 and find out more about their seller financing options today.
And for Week 2, unfortunately, in our coverage area, the lone win, just 1 win in 7 games for the teams that we typically cover here at the Herald, came via a 64-6 thrashing of the A-Leaf-Elsick Rams by, of course, the reigning 5A D2 state champion Randle Lions. And when you see 64-6, you can go ahead and assume big things coming from the offense, and that was certainly the case. senior quarterback Tyler Scoreboard went 12 of 21 for 204 yards and 2 scores through the air. He also added a 2-yard touchdown run to give him 3 total for the game. That matches the scoring output of superstar junior back Landon Williams-Callis, who carried the ball 13 times, 136 yards and 3 scores. And Amari Louisville, the junior, 8 carries, 100 yards, and a score of his own. That the junior has emerged in that offense as the number 2 back. That was one of the questions. We talked about this a little bit last week. Who was going to fill that Sincere Timpson role as the number 2 back in this offense? Of course, with Sincere Timpson and Deshaun Burton both graduating last year, it was kind of a little bit of a vacuum at the RB2 spot. Louisville, 2 really, really strong performances out of the gate. You know the Lions love to see that. Passing game, the favorite target for Scoreboard was Kamar Chavez-Brown, who caught 4 passes for 53 yards. Cedric McClintock, 75 yards and a score across 3 catches in the passing game, as I said there, for Randle. So you will take that. You'll take that offensively, 64 points, absolutely. 6 total tackles, 4 solo, 2 assists for senior Noriel Pacman Dominguez. It was just a dominant performance against another 6A playoff team for the Randle Lions. And, of course, next week, the Lions are going to be hosting the Travis Tigers in a really big one at Traylor Stadium. Of course, beat the Tigers a season ago. But Travis is coming off of a big win over a heavily favored Katy Jordan team. So certainly the Lions will have to be aware of what the Tigers are capable of on the field. It's going to be a really interesting matchup. I think it's one of the more intriguing games around the area, and a start, and we'll talk about this a little bit later here in the cast as well, of what I think is probably the most important stretch of the entire season for the Randle Lions. You're playing Fort Bend Travis, Fort Bend Marshall, and Iowa Colony, and I say it a little bit later as well. We'll talk about this, but really, I think that's going to be the most pivotal stretch. If the Lions can get through that unscathed, I think we have a really good shot of seeing the number 1 overall seed in Region 3 as an undefeated Randle Lions team. And while I was not at that Randle game, while Joel was not at that Randle game, it's still a great performance out of the Lions. And we weren't at that game, unfortunately. There was only 2 of us. There were 3 games on Friday, and Joel had a really interesting look at a Terry Ranger team that was trying to go 2-0 for the first time since 2022, but unfortunately fell just short against Houston Westbury.
Well, it seemed like it was going to be a good night for football at Joe K. Butler Stadium against those Houston Westbury Huskies in the house. The Terry Rangers were still riding high after the season-opening victory against Houston Worthing, and maybe a bit too high coming into the second game of the season. The Rangers got stung early after the opening kickoff, which landed the Huskies at their own 4-yard line. But somehow Westbury found a way to not only get out of that situation, but score a 98-yard touchdown when quarterback Dazon Williams hit Jamal Bailey downfield between the 10 and 15-yard line. Bailey did the rest with his speed going down the sideline and giving the Huskies a quick 7-0 lead with 10:51 left in the first quarter. But Terry looked pretty good on the first offensive drive, with senior Everett Gary getting a majority of the 11-play drive to the 1-yard line. However, the Rangers couldn't punch it in, instead settling for a 24-yard field goal from Robert Shaw, and they still trailed 7-3. But Terry got a gift on the next offensive series from Westbury. They fumbled the ball at the 26-yard line with a Ranger pouncing on it. The Fort Bend County team got it to the 11-yard line, but on second down, Terry quarterback Caden Jones scrambled a bit to his right and found Isaias Leandro near the goal line. But once he caught the ball, he was gang tackled and unfortunately fumbled the ball away. That one hurt. The only other score that happened in the first 24 minutes was a beautiful pass from Jones to Elijah for 58 yards downfield. Now, Whittle made a great catch, but then he had to fight off a defender for the final 8 yards into the end zone. Now, Terry took a quick lead. By halftime, it was 10-7 at that point. With 10:19 left of the third period, the Rangers had lost a 3-point lead as they now trailed by 3 points, 13-10. In that second half, Terry lost the ball twice to fumbles, and also they turned the ball over on downs in a couple of series. Obviously, there were miscues that Coach Jackson didn't like, but at times the Rangers looked lethargic on the field. It could have been that hot field because it was steaming out there. Or maybe they came in thinking they could beat the Huskies without really trying. Now that's what you call being overconfident. Next week, Terry will be at home on Thursday night to celebrate the annual homecoming against Fort Bend Willow Ridge. Game time will be 7 o'clock.
In need of professional care with a personal touch? Physical Therapy Care and Aquatic Rehab of Fort Bend can get you back to work, life, and play free from pain. With locations in Richmond and the Fulshire-Katy area, Physical Therapy Care and Aquatic Rehab of Fort Bend offers orthopedics, sports medicine, vertigo and balance rehab, and post-surgical rehab, and more. Call today at 281-344-8900 and find out how Physical Therapy Care and Aquatic Rehab of Fort Bend can listen, educate, and return you to functional independence.
In my opener Thursday night, a big-time opponent coming into Traylor Stadium to take on the Fulshire Chargers in Fort Bend Ridgepoint, the 7th-ranked team in 6A D1. The Panthers just loaded on both sides of the ball with Division I talent. And one spot in particular that I was really watching closely from the Panthers was that big offensive line. They've got commit going to Texas A&M, a commit going to Arkansas, and a commit going to TCU, all on that front offensively for Ridgepoint. So I was interested to see how the Chargers would respond going up against a team like that, especially, having played a really good Pearland team a week ago in a game that was a little bit closer than the final score would indicate. And last night, or Thursday night, was a game that was closer than the final score would indicate. If you just were to look at the box score Friday morning and see 34-10, you might think, yeah, that's about right. That's kind of what I expected, in this matchup. But that was a 13-10 Ridgepoint lead in the second half. And Fulshire had multiple possessions at that margin to tie or take the lead. And if it's not for a little miscommunication in the backfield at the end of the first half, if it's not for a dropped pass, or maybe let's go a little bit different and say, a quarterback missing an open receiver in the end zone, and if it's not for another fumble, this is an entirely different game. And talking to Fulshire coaches and players after the game, they agree. This was not a contest that was a 3-score game. It just kind of snowballed at the end on the Chargers. And I think it's important, you're going to look at Sean Patel throwing the ball 11-25, 125 yards to score in an interception. And that interception is a dubious distinction on that play. He hit his receiver in the hands. The receiver then got hit in the arms, and the ball popped up and right into the arms of UCF-bound linebacker Preston Hall for what will officially go down as an interception, but Patel put the ball where you want him to in that spot. So he played well when he was able to throw, on station. When he was able to set his feet and get into the throw, he's having balls coming out of his hand that looked really, really good. It's just a lot against a Ridgepoint team that has as Coach Hill said to me earlier this week, 24 guys that are Division I talents on that roster. You've only got 22 that play, at any time, right? So to have 24 Division I guys is really, really something. And I think anybody that saw the last couple of games for Fulshire knows that this team's a work in progress, and while it's tough to go 0-2, you'd rather drop these games here at the end of August, early September, when you're gearing toward a district championship run. And Coach Hill definitely believes that there are better days ahead for the Chargers.
If we don't turn the ball over here and we make one throw down here,
Yep.
where they had a busted coverage, we had a guy open,
Yeah.
and we missed that throw, we're winning the game going into the fourth quarter. through the fourth quarter. So, I mean, our guys came out. We had a game plan tonight to run the ball, be real physical at the point of attack, and that shows. I mean, we came out and we ran the ball right down their throat. And then we get in the red zone and it shrinks up a little bit. You know, we called a couple plays that we felt good about and just we didn't execute. And when you're installing a new offense and a new system, you got a new quarterback doing new things, bad things are gonna happen from time to time. But that doesn't take away the fact our defense came out. We got punched in the face a couple times, but then they settled down. The defense played well enough for us to win the football game tonight. Offense let us down. So I got to do a better job getting our guys ready. But the one thing I'm proud about is our guys came out. We expected to win this football game, and I think we had an opportunity in the fourth quarter to just do just that. So that's the number one team in the city of Houston, and we were within 3 in the fourth quarter. So it gives me hope and faith that we're doing things right. And, we're trending in the right direction. So I told our coaching staff, let's stay positive with our guys. Tomorrow, let's go watch the film and fix our mistakes, and then hopefully we get a chance to see them later on down the road.
And I want to mention, on top of talking about how this game went, Fulcher gave up touchdowns on each of the first 2 Ridge Point drives. The Panthers marched down the field right off the bat. 6-play drive for the touchdown, taking a 7-0 lead. Force a punt. Again, Preston Hall makes the tackle for loss. It kind of prompts a punt. And just a few plays after that, another rushing touchdown, this time 45 yards from Aiden Atkins for the Panthers. And it was 13-0. With 6:36 left in the first, it was already a 2-score game, and the Chargers didn't have a stop. And then From that point on, Ridge Point didn't have a possession that got past midfield until well into the second half. I don't think we can give enough credit to the Fulcher defense, and Coach Huckabee there, the defensive coordinator for Fulcher. I don't think we can give enough credit to the adjustments that were made after that first 2 possessions to the rest of the game. They gave them a chance to win. I really think that, just a couple plays here and there would have swung it, kind of like last week. That's what Coach Hill was kind of preaching all week long. And again, that defense, a big part of that. And guys like defensive back Karma Diogu, who had a pick, a couple of really athletic pass breakups against some top flight wide receivers for Ridge Point. And I thought it was really cool. He had a first half interception, and while that play was going on, he remembered something that happened to him freshman year that allowed him to step in and make the play on the ball.
Honestly, it's experience. I remember freshman year going to actually drive down on the QB and hit him and getting the ball thrown over me, so it's really a memory thing, staying back. And I knew the ball was going to come to me no matter what. I'm going to take that.
I'm curious, was that something that clicked automatically for you in the moment, or did you have to think oh wait, I remember that, and was it just like an instinct kind of thing?
I just felt the ball was going to come to me no matter what. I knew he was going to throw it to me.
In need of a partner to help you reach your financial goals? Houston Federal Credit Union is your local credit union. With checking accounts, savings accounts, auto loans, mortgage loans, business loans, and credit cards, Houston Federal Credit Union can help you achieve all of your financial dreams. Find out more information at houstonfcu.org to apply online for a loan or membership, and find out more information about how they can help you get where you want to go.
Well, it looks like things are changing for the better at Lamar Consolidated High School as the football team continues to make some changes. Now, just in the second game of the season on Friday night, they took on Fort Bend Kempner, but they fell short. But the Mustangs would rather be playing in games like this, where it goes down to a final play or a final drive. Such was the case at Guy K. Traylor Memorial Stadium, where they lost a tough 29-25 gamer. It was tough because just a few plays prior, with about 90 seconds on the clock, Lamar went into the end zone, but the ball was fumbled, giving it back to the Cougars to run out the remaining seconds. Both teams came into the night at 1-0, and each team was looking for that exclusive second victory this early in the season. The scoring didn't start until the second period, with Kempner taking an 8-0 lead. But the Mustangs got on the board right before halftime with about 2 minutes left, and they only trailed by 2 points, 8-6, going into the locker room. And speaking of that locker room, they came out of it on fire in the third, with wide receiver Isaiah Coben bringing the kickoff back to their own 45-yard line. In just his third pass of the game, junior Edgar Garcia found Jordan Waddle over to his right, flicking him the ball, with Waddle doing the rest, breaking a few tackles and taking it to the house, with the Mustangs taking their first lead of the game, 13-8. Lamar increased the lead to 19-8 after sophomore Larry Clinton erupted for a 23-yard run into the end zone. It was a very nice run by Clinton, breaking some tackles of his own. But the Cougars kept coming back with a passing game that went for more than 300 yards, including 2 big scores in the final period to get them the victory. However, they had Garcia, who was making things happen either with his passing or his legs, and he just wouldn't go away. Garcia found Waddle again for the second time in the game, this time the touchdown going for 50 yards, and that increased their lead to 25-15. That gave the Stangs that 10-point lead with the whole fourth quarter still to play. Kempner scored twice in that final period, including the 9-play, 51-yard drive where the junior quarterback, Deuce DeGar, facing a 3rd and 10 at the 21, found Aoyu Aflobi in the end zone. DeGar threw for all 347 yards, but Garcia also had a good night, going 10 of 12 for 150 and 2 scores. The Mustangs are coming together because they are seeing a lot of adversity in the game, and that could bring a group together like this. Lamar will go to Houston Cesar Chavez this Thursday at Herman A. Barnett Stadium, looking for their second win in the season.
Friday night, I made the drive down 36 to Needville and Blue Jay Stadium to see the Blue Jays take on the Livingston Lions. This was a game last season. Needville won quite handily, 42-6. I mean, this was a big win for the Jays a season ago. I will tell you what, it was evident very, very, very early on that was not at all the same Livingston team that Needville saw last year. It's an athletic offense. They had good size. They moved the ball well. It was not a Livingston team that looked like they were going to roll over, and they didn't. And unfortunately for the Jays, mistakes piled up and piled up and piled up, and all of a sudden, before you know it, it's a 44-38 loss at home to fall to 1-1 on the year. And I mentioned the mistakes piling up. 6 turnovers. They threw a pick 6. They lost fumbles. They threw interceptions. They muffed kickoffs. It was a disappointing performance from a Needville team that was looking to move to 2-0 for a second year in a row. There were certainly bright spots. Needville didn't roll over. They made a pretty solid comeback attempt to get within a score. They kept the game within a score and just kept fumbling opportunities away, unfortunately. And Coach Giles knows, hey, these are mistakes you've got to clean up. But he's frustrated that they weren't mistakes caused by the other team so much as mistakes caused by his own group.
So it's a fine line right there, because if you go too far, then it's in the kid's head, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they're thinking. And then it just starts happening more because they're playing to not do that.
Right.
So I just want our kids playing free and fast and with confidence. And so, no, I'm not going to beat them up over that stuff. Now, we're going to coach it and we're going to work it and see where we could have been better.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, we're not going to beat a kid up over. I know he's not trying to fumble.
Yeah,
or throw an interception. But we've got to do things. We got to execute things.
Sure. I appreciate you, Coach.
Hey, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course. You got it. And one of the things I know about Coach Mike Giles and his more than a decade-long tenure at Needville High School, he's going to challenge his team in the non-district schedule. He loves the non-district schedule to go up against big-time opponents. And boy, oh boy, does he have some big-time opponents coming up in town next week for homecoming, the defending state champion Columbus Cardinals. Yeah, it's going to be a tough game, but on the bright side is his team scored 38 points a week ago with 6 turnovers, and the thought is you clean some of that up and you see how you look against the best teams, and you are all that much more prepared for making a push when it really matters, of course, in that district slate. And boy, that district slate's not going to get any easier. As I said, that Fort Bend Crawford team is being picked by some already to perhaps win the state championship in that division. So Jays will have their work cut out for them. But as Coach Giles talks about, that's what this non-district schedule is all about, to see what his team has, see where it can grow, and where he can challenge his group to push itself into that district slate.
It was a crazy night at Traylor Stadium on Saturday night as the Clear Fall Knights came into town to meet up with the George Ranch Longhorns. And despite a couple of delays during the stormy night, the George Ranch Longhorns did everything to stay close to a daunting Clear Falls offense, eventually falling 44-30 at the end. But if anything, the night belonged to George Ranch senior Hayden Drinkard, who had more than 300 yards of offense by himself. But it was the Knights who owned the game from the start with their no-huddle offense that had so many weapons, whether throwing or running the ball. But the Longhorns were looking for the second win of the season, but they couldn't keep up with the daunting offense that rattled off 12 plays on the opening drive to go up 7-0. George Ranch did answer a couple of series later, with the Horns taking over at their own 30-yard line. Junior quarterback Tony Morrison completed 2 big passes on that drive, with the first one to Drinkard for a 20-yard gain. Facing a 2nd and 5 at the Falls 25-yard line, Morrison found Brandon Jefferson with an 11-yarder to the 14. Then Drinkard scored the first of 4 touchdowns on the night, with his first one needing a couple of pushes. From the 4-yard line, Drinkard took the ball way up the middle, ran into a big wall of Knights, so he reversed a bit and went at it a different direction from a different angle and got it through. Game is tied 7-7. But by the second quarter and a series later, Clear Falls took the lead again with Ochin Shapa going in from the 29 yards while breaking a tackle along the way. After the 2-point conversion, they were up 15-7 with 10:58 before halftime. Once George Ranch got the ball back on first down, the 5'8" Drinkard took the first down ball from Morrison and went straight up the middle on the Knights' offense, going untouched 79 yards to pull within 2 points of the Knights, 15-13. On Fall's next drive, a 49-yard strike from quarterback Kaiden Barker to Zach Greer once again increased the lead to 22-13. Right after that, a weather alert was announced on the stadium, and the stadium was cleared of everyone. After a 35-minute delay, the teams were back on the field in time for Drinkard to score on a beautiful 38-yard run where he went on the inside, then went on the outside, and made it in from 38 yards out, 22-20. They still trailed. Then a lightning delay took it up another 30 minutes, but the Knights scored right before halftime to go up 29-20. Because of the weather conditions, halftime was canceled, and the halftime session lasted 40 seconds. Back in play, George Ranch got as close as they would the rest of the night with a 20-yard field goal from Josh Matula, 29-23. Still in the third period, Drinkard had one more long run into the end zone, which went for 70 yards by leaving everyone behind him, and they were still down 37-30. The Longhorns will get back at it with a noon start at Kingwood Park this Saturday at Turner Stadium in Humboldt.
And Saturday night at Rhodes Stadium in Katy, of course, for the Foster Falcons, another frustrating game offensively. They were shut out for a second straight week in a 7-0 loss to Katy 7 Lakes. The Falcons are now 0-2 on the year. But, I mean, this game, it stings, and believe me, Coach Hanks is frustrated. You know, he wants to see results, and he believes that they're close. The offense had a couple of opportunities. They just kept making mistakes in key moments. It was turnovers immediately after the defense got them the ball back with a turnover. I mean, on 2 separate times, immediately following an interception by the Falcon defense. The first time, Foster fumbled the ball back on the very first play of the ensuing drive. And the next time, they fumbled the ball back 2 plays after an interception. So there's 2 opportunities where the defense makes a play to get you the ball back, and sometimes in a really key spot. And you're unable to do anything with it offensively. You give the ball right back. Another opportunity, Foster had first and goal from the 2. Down 7-0 in the fourth quarter. And in that first and goal series had 3 false start penalties, including on consecutive attempts. So first and goal from the 2 turned into first and goal from the 7, turned into first and goal from the 12. You can't win like that. And as I said, Coach Hanks knows this. He talked about the mistakes that his team made, and he talked about the need for cleaning them up because, again, the defense was spectacular. And he just knows it's up to the offense sometimes to pick up the defense just as much as it is up to the defense to pick up the offense.
Defense played outstanding. You know, we got that short field on the the miscue punt, but and they kept us in the game. And then we had a chance at the end, and I don't know where his foot was out of bounds at the end, but but you want a chance, and they gave us a chance. But man, we can't make the miscues we had. We were driving right there in the second quarter, and fumbled the ball and lost our momentum, and then again, have another drive start in the third quarter, and you can't turn over. Then when you have the ball on the 2-yard line, we can't have false starts and go backwards. So it's tough. It's a tough loss. With Alt coming in, we had a great game plan. The kids executed. We were wearing them out defensively. But again, you can't make mistakes and expect to win ball games.
And for the Falcons, when you look at their non-district schedule, and I think that's the other thing that's important to remember here. It's a non-district schedule. As frustrating as it may be, they went through pretty much exact circumstances a season ago. Starting the year 0-2, but moving forward, it certainly doesn't get any easier for Foster. They have to play the 6th-ranked Angleton Wildcats. It's a resumption of what's been a really good rivalry game, and Coach Hanks talks about that a little bit, and how he says he may not have done his team any favors in terms of this schedule, but certainly it's one of those things. You see great teams and you play against great teams, and you're going to be typically better off for it. So there's plenty of time for the Falcons to right this ship, just as they did last year when they went 4-2 in District 26A play and got into the playoffs. Hanks knows these few weeks here is a really good opportunity for his team to learn and grow quite a lot. And of course, with the Falcons falling short at Rhodes Stadium, our teams here at the Herald fell to 1-6 on the weekend, with that lone win being the Randle Lions 64-6 over Alief Elsik, of course a 26A opponent for George Ranch, Fulshire, and Foster. So certainly something we'll keep an eye on as the Rams get ready to play those three teams. But Joel had some really interesting numbers he put together from week 2, and I think you guys will get a kick out of what he was able to look at.
I don't know if they're brilliant, but I just think they're interesting. Only because when you go 1-6, you always look at the bad side. You never look at the good side. And of course, I did the same. But once you add everything up this past weekend, I mean, the opponents outscored them 184-177.
-7 being 1-6 is you'll take that.
That's a Foster game right there. So hey, take that away. It's even. So yeah, I mean, I thought that was kind of interesting. 1-6, and like as we mentioned before, we see a lot of good things. So I think that says a lot for this area. And we'll keep seeing good things, hopefully, in the future as well. Now, also some other numbers that I took off from this week, of course, the big one being the 300 yards of offense for Hayden Drinkard. Even when I talked to him, I asked him, could this be your best that you've ever had? He said, yeah, maybe. So, and I don't think he's had one before. So 13 carries, 136 yards for Landon Callis-Williams. And I think it was 3 touchdowns.
3 scores, yeah.
3 scores against Alief Taylor?
Elsik.
Elsik. It was one of those schools. But, hey, there's Landon doing his thing, man. 10 of 12 for 150 yards for number 5 for the Lamar Consolidated Mustangs. Edgar Garcia. And he got in trouble, too. But, hey, he didn't play the whole game. Imagine if he would have, and maybe he could have been the difference in that game with only a 4-point loss.
And I'm certainly not trying to be disparaging to anybody that has kind of called snaps or called plays under center for the Mustangs, but be interested to see when the last time a Lamar Consolidated quarterback went 10 of 12 passing in a game,
Yeah, not since I've been here. So I know that. Hey, one of the big ones for defense, a 72-yard pick six for Case Vosek from Needville. Ah, yes. Was he running away from those Lions?
So it was a really interesting play. Actually, Needville had just pulled. It was actually a 2-score game at this point in time. They just scored to really get a little bit closer, and it felt Livingston was starting to drive ball down the field that maybe the Lions were going to find a put-away score, and he caught a ball, jumped it in the flat, really beat